Good morning, and thank you for coming today. I hope everyone's having a great semester so far. The weather's been gorgeous. What a time to be in Arkansas. Before I begin, I want to make sure that I recognize and acknowledge who really is the most important person in this room, and that's my wife, Sandy, who's here. So thank you. She does a great job for the University of Arkansas. I appreciate all she does. She thought she retired, by the way, before she came here, and that didn't quite work out for you, did it, Sandy? So my goal today is to spend a little time taking stock of where we are as an institution. And if I spend more time peering ahead rather than focusing on the present, it's because I believe my job is one that's essentially forward-looking instead of one that dwells on the past or even on the present. So it's my responsibility to look months and years down the road, anticipating opportunities and obstacles from making appropriate plans for those opportunities and obstacles. But I do want to make it very clear at our outset here that this is a fantastic time to be at the University of Arkansas. Over the past year, we've realized many successes, including a steady enrollment growth, great private gift support, a reallocation of 1% of budgetary resources towards our strategic priorities and our academic mission, and a slight but nevertheless positive move in our recent U.S. News ranking, to name just a few. And I'm sure by now we've all heard about the $120 million gift from the Walton Family Charitable Support Foundation to establish a School of Art. This is a big deal for a lot of reasons beyond what it'll do for the School of Art and for the Fulbright College and the university in general. To me, the gift symbolizes much more. This gift represents a huge vote of confidence and investment in the future of the university. Let's face it, no one gives you $120 million because you seem like nice people. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're nice people. In fact, I think we're very nice people. But this gift demonstrates that people understand we have the talent, the foundation, the leadership, and the ability to do something very special here at the University of Arkansas, and we will. This gift is, of course, part of a larger effort to advance the university that we call Campaign Arkansas. And before this gift, we were on track to reach our billion-dollar goal by 2020. Now we are well ahead of the pace, and in doing so, ensuring a brighter future for thousands of students and our faculty. The purpose of this campaign is to strengthen the foundation of the university by providing additional resources for endowments, for professorships, academic programs, for facilities, and many other worthwhile causes. And we're also creating new need and merit-based scholarships to ensure that we fulfill our land-grant mission to serve the people of Arkansas. By every indication, the university is thriving. Nearly 6,000 students earned degrees last year here, and this fall, we welcome nearly 5,100 freshmen. This is a success story. The freshman class is both the largest and best prepared in class in our history, with 50 national merit finalists, an average GPA of 3.69, and an average ACT score of 26.2. This is a success story. 20% are also first-generation students, and more importantly, we have never had more Arkansans enrolled in the freshman class than we do now. This is a success story. And while enrollment growth has undoubtedly created some stresses around campus as we've adjusted, it also speaks to the reputation, to the quality and the value of a University of Arkansas degree. Simply put, people want to be here, and they're coming in record numbers. And in an era when state funding has not kept pace with inflation, this growth has helped generate precious revenue and helped to improve our educational quality. But the end is in sight. We cannot continue to grow as we have for the last 10 years or so. Beyond 30,000 students, we know that additional on-campus growth would require major investments in infrastructure. And using steep tuition increases to pay for it is not an option either. So that means institutional planning will be extremely important as we stabilize enrollment growth as we move forward. With that in mind, let me focus for a moment on the priorities for this year. The work we did on defining priorities enabled us to make some strategic decision regarding this year's budgeting. We had almost $13.5 million in new money created by enrollment growth, priority-based reallocation of money, a great commitment from our athletics department, and many other things. And because investing in faculty emerged as a guiding priority, we elected to invest the bulk of that money, about $8.9 million, in salary increases for faculty and staff, so that we could make some progress towards closing the gap between our salaries and the salaries of our benchmark schools. The increase in faculty salaries alone was a commitment of about $4.4 million, and this doesn't include support for benefits, which is almost a 5% increase over last year. This year's budget reflects this commitment to investing in our faculty and in our staff. For example, because building a collaborative and innovative campus and enhancing our research and discovery mission both emerged as guiding priorities, we established the Chancellor's Innovation and Collaboration Fund to support interdisciplinary and collaborative research, among other things. For this $1 million fund, athletics contributed $750,000, so we greatly appreciate Jeff Long's leadership and his support for our guiding priorities as a campus. And because advancing student success is a guiding priority, and my big focus for this particular year, we invested about $1.2 million in student success programs, a big part of which is the creation of interim 3,200 square foot satellite student success center space in Garland Center, which we will open sometime this spring. This space is a huge first step towards a much larger space that will ultimately bring us all together with all our student success components under one roof. So what are those components we believe will promote our student success? Number one, recruiting all of Arkansas, especially areas we have not done so previously. Second of all, transitioning to the U of A for our students from the many hometowns where our students originate. Third, retention of our students once they're here. We want them to persist. 4, on-time graduation. It might be the biggest thing we can do to reduce student debt. And 5th, having a good presence for career or graduate school transition after they complete their degrees here. You will hear more about these 5 components in the future as we develop our comprehensive student success model. And this model will require work at the university as well as college levels. We're just getting started. Trevor Francis has been reassigned from graduation and retention to lead our student success planning and implementation as the Associate Vice Provost and Director of Student Success. I do point out, however, that the purpose and function of student success is not limited to one office, to one division, or one person. We want everyone on campus to eventually understand how you can contribute to this effort. So that's some insight into our guiding priorities shaping our budgeting. This year, though, we plan to get ahead of the budget process a bit so we can identify and allocate resources earlier and more strategically for next year. That process is beginning right now. And yesterday, we released our strategic academic plan. And by the way, great thanks to Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor Jim Coleman, first of all, for his efforts, and everyone else who served on a guiding priority task force for the months of careful study needed to actually create this plan. And this plan can be found at the website, which should be on the screen behind me. I highly encourage you to look and familiarize yourself with that plan, because I won't be able to do it any justice today whatsoever. What you'll find is a breakdown of our guiding priorities and the actions needed to advance those priorities, as well as some of the basic metrics we'll be looking at to determine the success of these actions. It's imperative that we have metrics, metrics for measuring the effectiveness of an action or a program. And it's equally imperative as we discontinue programs that are found not to be successful. We simply can't continue to throw good money after bad. Let's look at just a couple of these programs. I already mentioned the creation of an interim or bridge student success center. So building on that a little bit more, we already know which guiding priority it falls under and what the action is. The expected completion date is spring of 2018. And how will we know if this action is successful? We'll know because we'll see an increase in students going to that center, as well as increases in our persistence rates, as well as our 6-year graduation rates. And we have lofty goals. Within 5 years, I expect to see a 5 to 10% increase in our graduation rate. Seeing more students persist and graduate from here is undoubtedly good for the student and good for the region, state, and nation as wide. And furthermore, increased retention and graduation is a sound financial matter as well. For example, if we retain 500 students here at the University of Arkansas, we would gain about $4 to $5 million per year in tuition that's lost when they leave. Finally, we expect to see measurable success in our tracking of their ability to attain employment or to pursue other education after they complete their degrees. If we do not see the anticipated results, then we will need to rethink what we are doing and how we're spending those dollars. Another priority is strengthening graduate education. We want to improve the quality of graduate programs that we already offer and increase enrollment in the number of degrees awarded in those programs. But we have another goal, and that is actually the development of professional master's programs. This would require minimal additional resources to identify new programs, but likely entail the reallocation of one-time funds for startup reasons. And after these new programs should be self-sustaining. We'll know that this action is completed when we have identified 1 to 3 new programs that have a market need and a business plan that creates positive revenue. Success will be realized when we have created successful programs that meet workforce needs in the state, increase our degree production, and at the same time have generated some revenue to the effective units that created the programs. And a final point to be made that these 2 items underscore why the 1% priority-based reallocation dollars are so important. That 1% generated about $2 million in new dollars from the administrative units for our priorities that are assigned this year. And in addition to that, our academic units reallocated about a total of $5 million towards our priorities identified within the colleges and their respective schools. And what's the most important thing for you to know? Every dollar relocated from an academic unit stayed within the home college. We have 2 more years of central administrative cuts to go, and we need to ensure that they are real cuts so that we can make investments in new campus priorities like the 2 I just highlighted. I won't go through this plan item by item. Again, I want you to encourage you to look it over yourself. But I do want to make it very clear how important the metrics are. We simply must be able to measure the effectiveness of our programs. In a time of tight budgeting, accountability is crucial. In fact, the new productivity funding formula prescribed by the Arkansas Department of Higher Education expects student success. I myself didn't have the pleasure of studying economics in our great Walton College of Business, but I know there is one old adage that I'm familiar with. Explain the productivity funding formula and you lose an audience. So as you can see, there's a ton of variables there. Each is weighted differently, and I'm not going to try to explain all the ins and outs of the productivity funding formula today. If you've got a day and a half, Gary Gunderman will be happy to share that with you. And I also, since I mentioned Gary, want to thank him as the executive director of the Office of Institutional Research. It was his role to represent our campus on the ADHE committee charged with providing input into the formula. And he did a great job representing our varied interest. It's sufficient to note that funding will be tightly timed to timely progress towards degree completion, with additional incentives to degree in areas like STEM and high-demand fields to underserved students, as well as attainment of certain certificates. As an aside, since the formula counts credentials awarded, I think it'd be great to see the development of true and honest certificate programs for our staff development here. To do so will help develop our staff's abilities and interests, while at the same time increasing the skills that are available to our university. The bottom line here is that the funding formula demands accountability, as well it should, and we should demand it of ourselves. There's little here that we are not already striving to do as an institution and do more successfully. So the question is, in an era of tight budgeting and with increased pressure from the funding formula to get results, how do we make progress on the academic plan? Well, I've mentioned already how important the 1% reallocation is. Please know that we're very serious about having a budget that's guided by that strategy. We'll also need to ensure we maximize every dollar we spend. For instance, we want to make progress on our graduation rates. To do so, we need a clear picture of who's dropping out and why. One thing we've learned is that unmet need is one of the biggest determiners of whether a student persists. Unmet need, for those that don't know, is the cost of attendance minus family contributions and aid that does not need to be repaid, things like scholarships. Whatever is left is the amount of unmet need for an individual student. The greater the unmet need, the more likely a student is to drop out. For example, between 2006 and 2015, less than 3% of Arkansas residents with more than $15,000 of unmet financial need graduated within 4 years. Less than 10% graduated within 6 years. Unmet need is as much a driver of retention as pre-college academic readiness. So that's why we're going to pilot a new program this year called the Arkansas Student Talent Enrichment Program, or Arkansas STEP. I want to thank Charles Robinson for coming up with that acronym. Arkansas STEP has two components: a mentoring program aimed at the students projected to benefit most from mentoring, and a need-based grant program aimed at the students projected to benefit most from financial assistance. Small grants of a few $1,000s are likely sufficient to bridge the gap between what a student has and what he or she may need to stay in school. The need-based component is similar to a University of Kentucky initiative that's been very successful, which uses predictive analytics to identify students who might struggle and reaches out to them before that happens. Our initial goal is to work with 300 students who are predicted to most benefit from personalized coaching and financial assistance. All students will be from Arkansas, with the majority of them first generation. So we're very excited to get Arkansas STEP going. If we see the retention increases that we anticipate, then we might think about how can we scale it up to make even a bigger impact. Another thing we are looking at is how do we handle students who fall below a 2.0 GPA. Traditionally, they have been sent off campus to attend community college until they get their grades up. But this has not been effective. They rarely return. And I might add, this approach really puts the future of our students that we admitted here in someone else's hands. We can and should do better. If we admit a student here, we need to take a more responsibility for that student while they're here. If we can identify the issue, is it financial, is it social, is it study habits, is it homesickness, is it the shock of transferring or transitioning, then perhaps we can better and be more empathetic about our solution. We can treat them as individuals and create a plan that is targeted and customized for their success. We can also be more proactive here, seeing who's accumulating D's, F's, and W's, and in what courses, and intervening earlier in their academic careers with mentoring, peer tutoring, or whatever the need may be. Students facing academic suspension and who want to stay on campus will also take an 8-week mandatory course focused on resilience and the development of essential academic skills. We're tentatively calling this whole effort Bounce Back. More importantly, we want to develop an approach that is on this campus that is summed up simply by the mantra, one student at a time. So these are some ways we might get better outcomes for hundreds of students without needing a lot of new resources to do so. Another way is to better leverage available resources. For instance, a matching fund is a critical component of our Advanced Arkansas Scholarship Program. We're asking donors to establish endowments beginning at $50,000. And to encourage gifts, we've committed to matching the spending account earnings generated by these endowments, which essentially doubles the impact of the contribution. For instance, Mike and Cindy Bonds are alumni who are big supporters of the Office of Student Affairs. They generously donated $100,000 to endow 2 scholarships for first-generation students. But because it can take time for interest to accrue on these endowments, they donated an additional $4,000, $2,000 for each endowment, so Advanced Arkansas scholarships could be given this year. The university then matched that $4,000. As I said, addressing unmet need is one of the critical issues facing the campus, so we're indebted to Mike and Cindy and many others for helping launch this program. In fact, this fall, we have a total of 10 Advanced Arkansas scholars here on campus. What a great start. We also need to be more active in identifying opportunities that might help generate economic activity, supporting the state as well as the university. That's part of the reason we created a new position, Vice Chancellor for Economic Development, which will be established by Dean Stacy Leeds. In her new role, Dean Leeds will work to broaden and refocus the U of A's mission to support Arkansas's economic development. She will work with units across campus to assess what the university is currently doing to drive economic growth in Arkansas, determining the needs of business and industry in the state, and propose ways to increase and improve these efforts. And these will include changes in the organizational structure that will make us more efficient in this area. We thought Dean Leeds would be a great person to establish this position due to her strong record of public service and engagement. She's been extremely successful in the law school and is a well-respected leader and consensus builder on campus. Part of what she will do, ideally, is help facilitate public-private partnerships. And her work will complement that of Randy Massanelli, who's Vice Chancellor for Governmental and Community Relations, who's also expanding our land-grant mission by connecting U of A services with regions of the state, with municipalities, as well as government officials. So what kind of projects might we be on the lookout for? One example, actually, is something we've been working on for much of the last year. While still in the planning stages, the College of Education and Health Professions and the Walton College are working with Spectrum Living Solutions, along with UAMS, the City of Fayetteville, Startup Junkie, and some other partners. And the purpose of Spectrum Living Solutions is to provide a living center and community for adults with developmental disabilities. It's the brainchild of Ashton and Betts McCombs, whose daughter Anna has autism. The McCombs couldn't find a community here in town where Anna could grow and thrive, so they had to find a facility out of state. Spectrum Living Solutions is their effort to change that. In their vision, approximately 40 clients would reside on site, while another 200 non-residents would have access to the community. This is expected to generate about 120 jobs. And some of these jobs would require graduates with the kinds of degrees coming out of the college education and health professions. There's also an entrepreneurial component, as the community would also create micro-business that would provide clients with a skill or a work opportunity, things like bike repair shops, a coffee shop, or perhaps vegetable production. Here's where the Walton College comes in, providing enthusiasm, first of all, as well as expertise in small business advising through the Macmillan Innovation Center. Students are already getting a grounding in corporate social responsibility as they strive to meet the unique needs and objectives of this community. There are lots of moving parts here, more than I can do justice in this speech today, and a lot still to be worked out, but it's a fascinating project with lots of potential. Ultimately, it would provide services that are not currently available in the area. It would stimulate economic activity and create research and talent development opportunities for our faculty and for our students. I hope we can make this a reality and perhaps be more proactive in identifying these kinds of public-private partnerships for the good of the university and for the good of the community. Our time is growing short, so just a few quick words on a couple of other topics. You may have heard Yvette Murphy Irby has been named Vice Provost for Diversity and Inclusion. A professor of social work and former Associate Dean of the Fulbright College, Dr. Murphy Irby has a track record of success. We have tremendous confidence she will help us craft a strategic plan for diversity and inclusion across campus, launch some meaningful initiatives, and approach this priority with vigor and zeal. I've said it before and I want to reinforce it here. Diversity and inclusion are not the responsibility of any one person or office. This paradigm and practice is the responsibility of our entire campus. It's up to all of us, and ultimately will be the hallmark of our success and quality. My expectation is a renewed focus on expanding inclusive excellence here at the University of Arkansas. And before I move on, I want to make sure I thank Ro DeBrezzo for handling of the duties in the interim. Great work last year, Ro. One last item. Some of you may know I've asked the staff in university relations to help create a unifying theme for the university's primary messaging and marketing efforts. If the strategic plan is the roadmap for our future, a set of unified goals for all of us to work together, then the unifying theme helps us clearly convey those goals to the state, to the nation, by explaining who we are, what we do, and where we're going. Why? Because we make a difference. We solve problems. We build futures. We transform lives. But no one will know that if we don't communicate our strengths in a consistent and unified way. A unifying theme helps communicate our identity. It scratches at the very heart of who we are. It's how we explain our goals, what we do, and why it matters. We need to define ourselves or risk letting others do it for us. And we've seen this ominous rise in anti-education sentiment, anti-higher education sentiment in recent years. Many faculty, staff, and students across campus are already involved in developing this unifying theme. I urge you to engage in the process and participate in the U of A survey, which will be launched this month. Think about why you're here. Think about what our university means to you, and think about what you mean to it. That is the identity of the University of Arkansas. With that said, I'll bring things to a close. Let me add, though, that the goals and priorities highlighted today are important for all the reasons we've discussed, but they're important for another reason. They are an expression of our values as an institution and our values as a people. We believe deeply in our mission to better humanity, starting with the lives of each and every person who enrolls here. We uplift the people of Arkansas through increased education, through outreach and opportunity, and the benefits also spread across state lines and in our national borders. We believe in the advancement of knowledge, not just in the interest of solving problems, which is critical, but also as an end itself. One of the fundamental human pleasures is the joy of discovery, a basic yearning to know more, to find answers, and to push against boundaries simply because they are there. Adjacent to that, of course, is the joy of creative activity, the need to express your innermost fears, your passion, your needs, your hopes and dreams with others. Both will always have a place here and reside at the very core of what we do. And just as J. William Fulbright believed international understanding cooperation would lead to world peace, we extend that understanding to include collaboration as well as diversity and inclusion. We believe in providing common ground for all faiths, all beliefs, races, backgrounds, and political persuasions to work together for the good of all. And all we ask is that you come with an open mind and a desire to learn and a compassion for others. That's what will change the world. I want to thank everyone for their contribution to making the university the best it has ever been. We have much to be proud of and much more to look forward to. For 146 years, this university has been a beacon of hope for the state of Arkansas. And together we'll continue the great work of all those who have preceded us and try to shine even brighter for those who still need us the most. Thank you for all you do for the University of Arkansas. Thank you.